Welcome to the FaceTime with God podcast. I'm your host, Kay Farrar, and yes, you have tuned in to the right place because we're bringing Christ to the culture and the culture to Christ because the gospel's not for old times, it's for all times. So we've got relevant topics, real people, and we're starting right now. All right, so welcome to another episode of FaceTime with God. I think I want to jump in, but I'll give one to lead up, and whoever wants to go first. But just sharing some of your fondest memories growing up. What was elementary school like for you?
Oh, elementary school. I remember it very vividly. I went to school in Petersburg. That's where I'm from originally.
Okay.
Went to Westview Elementary School, which is now, I think, a preschool. But my teachers there, you can tell when people are doing the thing they're supposed to be doing, when they love what they do. Even kids can tell. And as a child, I distinctly remember our teachers loved what they did. They were devoted to the craft of teaching. Yeah. And not only that, their hearts were for our full success, not just for our success in the classroom. They went above and beyond with the little resource that they did have. They stretched it. They were wise with it. Yeah. I remember my third grade teacher still inspires me to this day. And she opened the world to us with the love of books and reading. And there's nothing you shouldn't read. And there's things you should read the newspaper if you get a chance, and read the encyclopedia if you get a chance. Read all the things. And she really inspired me in a way that is I carry with me in this work. It's one of the inspirations I think of her often. When there's hard things, when there's the hard things about being in education now. I think of her often and how wise she was and how much she cared about how we were doing. Have you eaten today, baby? Wow. Let's start there. Can't learn if you're hungry. Have you, did you get good rest? Those things. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Inspire me the way I work with the kids now, for sure.
Yeah. Now, did you, just as a follow-up, did you start because you're an administrator now, but did you start as a teacher?
I didn't teach in a traditional sense. Okay. So my background's in theater. Okay. I studied theater. I'm a teaching artist in the classroom. So that's kind of where I teach drama and after school programs, and I did a lot of working with big groups of kids and things like that. But from just sitting at the feet of some amazing teachers, found that them to be just so inspiring. Yeah, it's like and the work that they do and the things we're hoping for, we're all wanting for our youth, our kids, what we want for them. Yeah. It was just so inspiring. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So all right. I want to get Sarah. How about yours?
Well, I'd say a lot, how we met was through, she was teaching my daughter in drama.
In drama, yeah.
And I made her
a good drama teacher.
She is. She really is. I mean, my daughter went on to get her degree, in college in performing arts. Inspired by.
Oh my gosh.
So I owe a lot to Alana in a lot of ways. And she's incredible with kids. She is a teacher at heart, for sure.
So you guys are like sisters.
It's so true.
Really.
It's true. Found a sister.
That is so awesome.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Sister in Christ and all
what
things.
You guys do, just to have that love, And so, is that like the secret ingredient to Imago Dei? The love?
Oh,
I think so. I think that's a part of it, and mutual trust.
That's it. And that is not just expected, but that is built over time.
Yeah,
right. That's proven.
Yeah, for sure. Alana has been a very gracious truth teller in my life. And I would say as a middle-aged white woman who needed some truth telling, and she has been a real sister to me in that, and patient and walking through building this together. And, I think that is a big part of the secret is the love and the trust that we have between each other, and what we want for to make possible for others as well.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about the truth telling.
Sure.
Is there some, what can you share around that?
Yeah.
What does that look like in your relationship?
Yeah, I think it looks a lot like, when Sara had the vision for the school, the Lord gave her such a beautiful, unique vision. And her path to get there, and it required her to do some deep soul diving, some unpacking, some facing some hard things, some looking in the mirror. And she didn't do that in her wisdom, didn't do that alone, right? You can't do that kind of work without looking at some hard things about your privilege, about the way you've been set up in life. And so she gathered around her, I think, tellers of truth and teachers and people who could, and she gave them permission to speak. And I think that's also the key is she gave us permission to come into her life and say these things, these true things that might be really hard to hear about how things are, especially for kids of color, especially for Black students, especially for in the country we live in and in the state we live in, right? And so I think is a special thing, and I don't take it for granted at all. It's really beautiful, and it's also I'm also honored to receive that wisdom. She's worked in administration and school administration for a long time. She's worked in politics. She's had her hands in so many things. She sees and has seen the inner workings of some very important systems. And I think that we have to work with sometimes. And so to sit at her feet also and to gain that and to say, tell me more about this, Sara. Tell me more about your experience here. Has just enriched my work. I feel like it made me better at my job. What I do.
Well, and I think it might sound like, when you phrase it that way or the way you're thinking about it, it's not landing the way you think it is, or you don't have you don't have enough life experience to speak to that thing, or
maybe I should do that and then you should come with me, or maybe you should head that up and maybe I will be right. Yeah. It's like the wisdom to know when we're going into different spaces, especially in the way our school works.
Right.
That's what it can look like.
Trying not to create spaces where Alana feels like she needs to code switch to be there. And because of that, she can create spaces where.
You know what? So I'm going to tell, I'm going to tell a major truth like right now. With you saying about I feel like, and it's so funny. I was thinking about this. I was like, you are seriously code switching right now. Me, talking to myself.
Do it all the time.
Yeah, we do.
It's natural.
But share a little bit, Sara, about how you got the vision for this school and what caused you to have compassion and empathy and see the need for a school like Imago Dei.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So my husband and I were missionaries in a closed country with our family. And before we went, we did a lot of study about that culture, the language, what were the pain points of the people there. Like when you're moving your life somewhere, you're going to be about that thing. A lot of stuff drops off, right? You get real focused. When we moved back to Richmond, he and I were like, what if we studied our hometown, was my hometown, the same way we had studied where we were going to move to? What if we asked questions about why are things the way they are? What are the pain points of the people who live here? What does it mean to be part of this community? And just began to really be much more intentional and not just, well, it is what it is. This must be the way we all want it. You can do that in your hometown, right?
Yeah.
And so I think God knows me well enough to know that he was going to have to yank me out, take me 8,000 miles away, bring me back to see things and to ask questions I'd never asked before. So when we came back, got involved with a Christian organization here that was monthly putting cohorts of people together to study transportation, housing, race relations, education, land use. So we'd study the history of it, do some reading, meet some of the Christians in the space who are working in the space, wrestle with kind of where we are today. And I mean, I was shocked. I was in my early 40s and had never heard some of the things that I should have known. I should have asked about. I should have been curious about. And it was a season of repentance for me for my lack of interest in those things.
Are you speaking of RCLI or no?
Yes, RCLI.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I was too old to be in the program, and so they let me
too old too. I did. It's so funny.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so they let me sit in the back, and eventually they're like, "You're sitting here all the time. Maybe just join the board already." So I got to serve on the board and sit in all the sessions that way, and I just learned so much. And you start meeting people like David Bailey, and he was
everybody knows David.
Yes,
sure do.
And he was the first I heard him talk about Richmond's racial history and the long fruit and where we are today in the aftermath of legislation that has changed, but there's this long tail fruit, right? And I remember going up to him afterwards and saying, number one, like, thank you. Number two, I've never heard this. Wow. That's insane, right? And number three, like, I just want to apologize. Like, I am so sorry. And he was so wise. He said, I appreciate that. Why are you apologizing? And I said, because I need to feel better, right? And he said, well, I'm not sure you're feeling better right this moment is exactly what's needed. Let me give you some books. Do your homework, right? And I think that was so transformational that he wasn't like, I'm just going to let you off the hook. No, you know what? You're a 40-year-old woman. You probably should know this stuff. You probably should have read James Baldwin before you turned 40. And I don't know if I'm unique as a person who grew up in the city, not knowing. I can't speak to that. I've met plenty of people who came up with me who also are surprised now that I'm like, hey, everybody, you should know these things. Wow. But that was very transformational. So, sorry, long story short, going through that process of learning, of listening, of asking better questions, going to community meetings, reading, I became more and more sensitive to what that's meant for housing and education specifically in our city.
Did I'm trying to remember. Well, when you were there, probably Reverend Campbell, did he come through? And his book, he's so passionate. And the whole transportation, because I remember one time he was a big part of the changing the bus routes and all that. I can't remember when that was in relationship to when you were there, but it's so much that I want to hit on, but we're talking about Imago Dei, and people probably want to know more about it. I don't know how many people are aware of those who are part of this podcast anyway. So talk a little bit more about the school that you founded. Founding a school is
terrifying.
Absolutely. It's a God stretch.
Yes. Tell us more about
well, the design of the school really is to be a disruptor to hypersegregation in education in Richmond. So both our public schools and our private schools, both public and private, have, I think, really unintentionally, but are, again, it's the fruit bearing of our city's history.
Coming from intentional segregation to now trying to desegregate, and then what has happened.
And because schools reflect housing, those patterns that were established, in the 100 years ago, and put in place and with redlining, all of there's so much that continues to be born from that. So the design of the school is to disrupt that by putting people together who have a common desire to be in genuine relationship across barriers through education. And one of the really profound things about education is that schools are the only required institution in our society anymore.
We have to go.
The only institution. The government cannot make you participate in your family or your neighborhood or your job,
church
or your church or your neighborhood. The only thing they can make you participate in if you have school-age children is school.
That's right.
So what is it going to mean for us as a society, particularly in this time of anxiety and loneliness and isolation, deconstruction, people leaving the church, politics being so toxic? What does it mean for there to be this one institution that we have to participate in?
I love that.
And can it be a place can it be a place in a city like Richmond of healing? That's kind of the question we're trying to answer and educate kids really beautifully and do a good job with that, give them what they need.
Exactly.
But in a way that's focused and responsive to Richmond's unique history.
Wow.
So we opened in 2021 with pre-K through second grade. Alana is our admissions director. So you can imagine like having her at the head of that is just incredible. It makes families so comfortable and she has filled every seat and overflowing every year. So this year we serve students in pre-K through sixth grade. About 120 amazing kids that are really reflective of the city, diversity-wise.
Our school looks like
the city.
Yeah.
And economically looks like the city too.
Right.
So let's talk about that from a numbers standpoint.
Sure.
Tell us more about that. So you said 100, did you say 128?
120 kids this year.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So we've got.
How does that break down racially?
Yes.
Sure.
So 33% are African American, 36% are white, 18% are biracial, and 13% are Hispanic this year. And then economically, we serve a third of our families are low income, a third are low middle, and then a third are middle or
middle to high.
Or high. So it is like all the variation that you can imagine is in this are in this space. And through the admissions process, we are finding families who want to be about this work.
That's right. We also have
I'm sorry, excuse me.
we also have a beautiful contingent of families that were looking for community that had adopted their children transracially. So the parents don't look like their children. And they were trying to find community in schools and places in our city that affirmed their children's dignity. And found us and told their friends. And so quite a few of our students and our families, 13% of our families, also grown through adoption, which is a large percentage for a school our size. It's really beautiful too.
And Sarah, are you an adopted mom?
I am.
Okay, I thought look, sometimes in my mind I'm like,
yes, I have two. So awesome. We have 4 children, and 2 of our daughters are Asian.
Okay. Awesome.
Hey fam, here's some more good news. Romans 10:13 says, whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. That means delivered from danger, rescued, protected, preserved, so that you would do well and be made whole. If you've never prayed this prayer, if you want to just confess it again, join us as we pray. Lord Jesus, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. I believe you died for me and paid the penalty for all my sins. I know I've not done everything right, but that's why I'm calling on you to save me, to wash me in your blood, to forgive me for all of my shortcomings, to make me whole again from the inside out. I will walk with you. I will follow you. I thank you for showing me through your word and by your spirit how I need to walk, how I need to live before you. Lord, I thank you for removing any blockage in my mind, in my environment. Lord, I thank you for sending your angels to protect me and to lead me in the way that I should go. According to Romans 10:13, I am saved. If you prayed that prayer, the angels in heaven are rejoicing, and so are we. Write "I'm saved" in the comments so we can celebrate with you. Get connected with some strong, balanced Bible believers in your area who can help disciple you. Talk to the Lord every day about your decisions and check out our video, The Greatest Superhero.